Hey, how you doing? This is RJ. You know, the more I think about those two Captain Marvel trailers for the movie, the more I think this movie is going to blow up in Marvel's face. And not because of what I had said previously, and not because of us here at Comicsgate, certainly not, and not because people are going to hate Brie Larson as an actress, and not because they're going to hate Captain Marvel as a character, but I think it's going to blow up in their face because of SJWs. And the reason I was thinking about this is because, well, I like to look at things from the other side. I was taught in university that you should do that. You should take a look at the argument of the other side and see if it has any merit. And I always like to look at the argument from the other side, or at the very least their perspective, to see if there's anything of merit there. And the more I thought about it, the more it looks to me like Captain Marvel really is not going to be received well by SJWs, especially if they think it's supposed to be a progressive movie or a progressive move on the part of Marvel or Disney. And I just wanted to go over that because I wanted to put it out there to see if this actually happens between now and when the movie comes out. So for this video, what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to be me. I'm going to be progressive SJW. I'm going to be mirror, mirror me. Or, I don't know, what? Bizarro RJ. What would that be? JR. There you go. That works. I'll be JR. Alright. Here we go. Hey. How you doing? This is JR. You know, I've been watching the trailers for Captain Marvel over and over again, and I gotta say that if they're trying to be progressive, if they're trying to appeal to social justice, they are going in the opposite direction. Because the comics supposedly are progressive. Now, they don't look very progressive to me, and I say that certainly because, well, they reversed all of their changes to make their progressive changes in the heroes, but their progressive changes in the heroes, you know, to change Thor into a woman, and to change Spider-Man and the Hulk into minority characters and people of color, you know, they did all that, but there's one thing that they didn't do. There was one character that they didn't reboot, and that would be their flagship character, which was Captain Marvel. Because they could have rebooted Captain Marvel very easily. They could have given the title of Captain Marvel back to the Captain Marvel who was Captain Marvel in the 80s and the 90s. Because after the blonde-haired white man was Captain Marvel and he died, well, you had a woman of color take over the mantle of Captain Marvel. And she was Captain Marvel for a while Carol Danvers was a character known as Warbird and Binary. Yeah. We'll get back to those names in a little bit. But no, they forgot that character. And they didn't see fit to replace Captain Marvel, this blonde-haired white woman, with a woman of color, a woman of diversity. No, they didn't do that at all. Not in the comics, and certainly not in the movies. Because if they're going to make Captain Marvel as the flagship character of their movies, they could have made her that 80s and 90s Captain Marvel. They could have been progressive in doing that. And they didn't. And that character is in the movies, it appears, in flashbacks, but that minority character is shoved into the corner, while the star is the blonde-haired white woman. Now, it's not just that, but look at the characters and what is going on behind these characters. Because Captain Marvel in this movie, she gains her powers through the Kree. And I want to look at the Kree for a minute. Because she gains her powers through the Kree, and then she goes off and joins the Kree, and she is part of their galactic empire, and fights as a soldier for the Kree. Now, who are the Kree? Well, the Kree are a warlike intergalactic empire, whose soldiers all wear a similar uniform. Their skin color, by the way, is either white, or pink, or light blue, so all very pale colors, and they believe themselves superior to other races, and they follow a leader called the Supreme Intelligence. Now, if Marvel can't see that the Kree are Nazis, then they are obviously not looking at this very well. Again, you have a militaristic empire of light-skinned people who believe that they're superior to everyone else and follow a leader called the Supreme Intelligence. And obviously, the Supreme Intelligence is just a euphemism for Christianity. And so the Kree are just Nazis. That's what they are in this movie. And that's who Carol Danvers actually gets her powers from, and she follows throughout the movie. Now, some people have said that at the end of the movie, it appears that she rebels against the Kree, and she goes her own way. And they think that that will make everything fine. No, it doesn't make everything fine. She's a Nazi. You don't forgive Nazis. That's not something you do. You punch Nazis in the face. You punch them in the face so many times that they go and hide in a hole and never come out again. You don't forgive Nazis. Once a Nazi, always a Nazi. And so if Carol Danvers, for this movie, gains her powers and is part of this intergalactic empire, which is just a stand-in for your Nazi empire, for your white empire, then no, there's no reason to forgive her at all. Especially if you look at the empire, the evil empire supposedly, that the Kree are fighting against, because they are the Skrull. Let's look at the Skrull for a minute. The Skrull are these people who, if you know anything about Marvel's history, you could see why the old white men who wrote these characters in the 60s and the 70s thought that this shape-shifting race would be the ultimate evil empire, because they are a people of color, because they're green-skinned. They are a people who have facial features which are not quite the same as white people, and they are shapeshifters. So they are non-binary. So they don't have a fixed gender. They don't even have a fixed species. They can go to whatever shape they want. And these are the people that they portray as being the evil empire, and that are trying to infiltrate the Earth and take over the Earth. And how do they do that in the movie? Well, they hide amongst the white people in America and try to take over the institutions there. That's what they do. And that leads right into my next point, which is the one scene from this movie that's in both of these trailers. And that's the scene where you have Captain Marvel, the blonde-haired white woman, wearing her Nazi-like uniform on a train, tracking down this Skrull, this male Skrull, who then transforms into a woman and hides himself among the other people, the white people on the train. So this transgendered Skrull, who has now become a woman and is trying to hide from this white blonde-haired woman, well, what does she do? This character who was previously known as binary, Captain Marvel, well, she tracks her down and she punches her in the face. And then it appears a chase ensues and Captain Marvel kills this Skrull. So there you have it. You have this blonde white woman who previously was called binary, working for the Supreme Intelligence, wearing her Nazi-like uniform, tracking down non-binary, transgendered people of color with facial features that are not quite white. You see, this is the problem with Marvel. They are working off of these old characters, and this is what these old characters are. These are not progressive characters at all. This is not a progressive story. And I have to say, as someone who identifies as a progressive, non-binary, purple meat popsicle, this is the most offensive thing that they could ever put out there. So, hopefully, I've shown you why you should be offended by this movie. If I did, hit like. Hit the symbol of oppression in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to subscribe, and leave me a message. Tell me if I've missed anything, and where I need to check my privilege. Alright, I'll see you later. Bye.